The Blues had a fantastic win last night. Let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Bryn Chen.
Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk to you about that 4-1 victory over the Nashville Predators last night. The game of the season is tomorrow, and I do have some news on Colton Parayko, which I am really excited to talk about, but you just have to wait until the end to hear an update on Colton Parayko. With all that being said, busy episode as always, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're here on YouTube, or give a follow anywhere where you listen on any of your podcasting forums, whether that's Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, I hope every single person is having a beautiful Wednesday. It is the endish of March now. We're approaching close to April, which means that the playoffs are heavy on my noggin. But last night's game solidified something very special, very exciting within me. And that is that I believe that this team could be a playoff contending team. Listen, the 4-1 win should have been 4-0. However, there was a really ugly goal that did go into the net at the end of the first frame, which made it obviously it was like not the second frame. It was by Brady. Second frame I meant, which made it the one. So it was 3-1 then. But this team played with absolute dominance and resilience. There was a couple of sporadic moments in the final frame where I did feel like Nashville did have good control of the puck and they were able to force themselves finally into the Blues' offensive zone. But with all things being said and done, I feel like the Blues did a really good job of just being able to maintain coverage. They had really good zone entry. And overall, it was a great win, a 4-1 win. Joel Hofer was in net last night, and Hofer had a great game. And this is something that I like to see a lot when it comes to the goalies, is them having just better, strong games. Last night, Hofer had 22 saves, one went in, but either way, having a .957 save percentage is absolutely phenomenal. So he also had 3 power play saves and 1 shorthanded save. So I was very, very proud of my boy Joel Hofer. We also look at some of the other players on the ice last night. I did tell you before that Broberg did play the most minutes on defense a couple games ago. Well, that stands true to tonight last night as well. He played the most minutes out of anybody besides Hofer. And Robert Thomas played 20 minutes. You also then had Cam Fowler playing 21 minutes and Justin Folk playing 20 minutes. So a lot of the defense played a good amount. The guy that played the lowest amount on defense was Tyler Tucker with only 12 minutes. Tux actually went to the box for fighting or roughing. It was like the weirdest call. Jamie Rivers, I love Jamie Rivers. He is one of my favorites. He was even like, what is going on? Because it was this really insane call that was made against him because it looked like he went for someone's head. Either way, it was odd. Wasn't a huge fan of it. Just a quick game recap. I know that obviously you probably have seen the game by now, but in the first frame on the power play, Justin Folk had a really nice goal, fed to him by Dylan Holloway. Made it 1-0. Jake Neighbor scored his 19th goal of the season, and it was assisted by Justin Folk. Second frame, Jordan Kyrou scored, assisted from Holloway. And then in the third frame in the fourth goal, Kyrou scored his 29th goal of the season, assisted by Holloway, making it Holloway's 32nd assist. Holloway had 3 assists on the night. Kyrou had 2 goals, no assists, and Neighbors had 1 goal, 1 assist. The Blues had 21 shots on goal, while Nashville had 23. Blues had 25 hits compared to the Preds 31. Penalty minutes, Blues had 18, Predators had 33. You might be wondering, Haley, why there's so many penalties. In the first frame, Nashville got a minor for tripping, and then they got a minor for hooking. Okay. Second frame, there was interference. It was like a bad hit to the head on Bushi, but he ended up being fine and he came out during the third frame. They also had a fighting and then a game misconduct. Jake Neighbors actually had a fighting penalty. He got a Gordie Howe hat trick last night. I was like, heck yeah, Nate. I mean, not Nate, Jake Neighbors. That's whatever. Finally, in the third frame, they had a roughing, a fighting, and then a holding. So there was a lot of penalties in last night's contest, a little bit choppy. But either way, the boys came out on top, and I was very proud of all the efforts I saw on display last night. Again, this was something where the Blues had to be dominant because for 2 hours, the St. Louis Blues had a spot in the playoffs. They were the second wildcard team. I was refreshing all of my apps, but unfortunately, the Vancouver Canucks did beat the Jets, which I was really ticked off about because the Winnipeg Jets had one job, and that was to beat the Canucks. Well, they couldn't do that, so I was a little bit frustrated. Either way, the Blues now have this pivotal game. I think they'll be fine. I do. I don't see the Blues flopping, so to say, right? I see the Blues absolutely thriving. And I think in last night's game, one of the things that I was exceptionally proud about from the Blues' 4-1 victory against the Nashville Predators was just their resilience. I mean, Blues coach Jim Montgomery said, I didn't feel like our players had their regular juice. So when you don't have that jump, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, right? Hofer was able to play well. I mean, he did get the pull against Dallas beginning of March. And he's been really solid ever since. Coach Montgomery said, essentially, the penalty kill was excellent. Hofer was excellent. D Corps were fantastic, and they just overall did a good job. Jordan Kyrou. Oh, man. 3-game point streak. He has been absolutely phenomenal. And defense did a great job last night, as I said. Parayko was on the ice for about 24 minutes. So that was good. Coach Montgomery said, I think our top 2 lines are scoring a lot now. So they're leading us that way. Like, you need to have success, the success they're having, essentially, right? Again, kind of just looking over some statistics of the game, right? Just trying to figure out things like that. Neighbors talked last night about the Gordie Howe hat trick and said, yeah, absolutely. Really close to Bushi. Just really tough to watch that hit. The instincts and the culture that we have, and you got to stand up for each other. No, my fight wasn't anything like his fights usually are, so I'm not going to brag about that one. That's just a fight on the score sheet, but it wasn't much of one in real life. Hofer said it's great. I've got to give all the credit to the guys. We're playing great hockey. It's a lot of fun. We've got a lot of swag, and we've got to keep going. We're building something here. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, really cool. Bennington is going to start against the Canucks. So there's that. It was a great win last night for the Blues. Again, a 4-1 victory. I was ecstatic on Twitter. I'm going to pull up some of my tweets, and you can find it at Locked On Blues. Sometimes I do tweet during the game. Sometimes I think I tweet a little bit too much during the games, but I get nervous, and sometimes I feel like when I'm tweeting, I'm just letting that nerves out. I did have that Blues fun fact for you yesterday. So last night, Kyrou, OMG, imagine if Kyrou gets a Hattie, doing his see something cool, it's not updating it updated, and then it showed the Blues having that second wild card spot. Well, didn't last too long. because obviously the Canucks won. I said it once and I'll say it again. I love the St. Louis Blues. This is special. So yeah, I was really amped up last night, and I'm sure you were as well. So let's go talk about the game of the season tomorrow because a lot is on the line. But first, let's talk about game time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. I just checked the Game Time app, and there's some amazing deals on some matchups coming up. One of the things personally that I am looking at is the WWE WrestleMania. So for me, that is something that I have in my mind, right? And I can see all of the views from all of the seats on the app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Argumentatively, the game of the season for the Blues is tomorrow. And I'm a little bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous about what could go down. Obviously, the Blues have a huge momentum boost for them as they had this fantastic 4-1 victory over the Nashville Predators. They had a great win against the Anaheim Ducks and then, of course, the Minnesota Wild. And then they, I know, lost to the Penguins. I get it. But I want to talk about the Canucks game last night because I, for one, was not expecting the game to go down the way that it has been. I'm not saying in any single way that the Winnipeg Jets are a bad team. They're not a bad team. It's kind of like the opposite, right? When I think about the Winnipeg Jets, I think about a resilient, strong hockey team that is leading the way in the NHL with 98 points, right? They were coming off of a 3-game win streak. However, they lost last night in a very ugly fashion to the Canucks. So last night's game, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was brutal. In the first frame, Vancouver was leading 3-1. Luckily, for a little bit, and this is when I went to bed, it was a late night game. Winnipeg made it a 1-goal game. Okay, Vancouver is still leading 3-2. Luke Shen with the secondary assist, by the way. And then it just went downhill as the Canucks continued to score and they made it 6-2, right? It was ugly. It was not good. But what can you do? I mean, I know what you can do. You can just hope that that didn't happen. Well, it was inevitable at that point. So obviously the Blues are facing a Canucks team. I don't want to say they scare me, right? I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, yeah, this team scares me. This team isn't, they don't necessarily scare me. They also did use the Utah Hockey Club. It was a 3-1 loss. They beat the Blackhawks 6-2. They beat the Flames in a shootout 4-3, but then they lost to teams like the Canadiens. They lost to the Stars. I'm just saying there's some inconsistencies, right? Like at one point, Anaheim did beat them like 7 games back or something. So it's not like the Blues are in this really bad situation. However, I can understand how you can be a little bit apprehensive about how maybe the game will go down just based on the fact that both of these teams are fighting for that second wild card playoff spot. And I'm not hating on the Minnesota Wild. I'm not. But obviously they haven't played their best hockey lately. I'm not saying, again, that they're a bad team in any single way. They have the Kraken tonight. On Monday, they did beat the Kings 3-1. However, I will say that, we had a great game against the Wild. So I do feel like the Blues, I know that the Wild beat us 3 times this season and it was only 1 win. But I'm telling you that this is a different Blues team. So for me, I do kind of take that game as it is, and I don't really look at it as, well, The Blues only won 1 out of 3. While that is a factual statement, I see it as, well, you know what? The Blues now are a much better Blues team than they were previously. So that's how I am looking at it. But as I said, it is insane right now how down to the wire both of these teams are. And this is the biggest match of the season. The Blues, by the way, they have a record of 34, 28, and 7, while the Canucks post a record of 32, 25, and 11. And they're both tied at 75 points. Vancouver, though, they're currently in the second wild card spot thanks to having that game in hand. So, yes, they have the same amount of points, but that game in hand does Vancouver good. So there's that. Anyways, before the Four Nations face-off break, the Blues were 8 points out. Okay? They have gone 9-2-2 since the break. Okay? And it is insane what the Blues have been able to do. Coach Montgomery said, I would say this is the most confident our group has been all season. And I would say the same. I would say that all the excitement we have for the next game is very apparent. We're not getting too high about it. We're just getting really eager to get out and play some really good Blues hockey. Okay? So again, very tight. The Flames, by the way, you can't count them out. They have 73 points while Utah has 71 points. Okay? So it is very important that all the rest of these teams don't do well. Coach said, I expect the building to be rocking Thursday. I think there's an excitement in this city. It's a great sports town. I know that. For family and friends and the way that, they're talking about it. I imagine the whole city is going to be pretty excited. So the last game, the Blues, obviously, they went down for a 1-game road trip against Nashville with a 4-1 victory. And it was honestly such a great game. Jordan Kyrou had 2 goals, as I mentioned, and Hofer was able to make 22 saves, so it was a great game. For the Canucks, though, they had, as I mentioned, that 6-2 win against Winnipeg in Winnipeg. So, yeah, clearly it was just a brutal game. Yeah, it's not good. But you know what? Kevin Lankinen, he was in goal. He made 19 saves on the 21 shots. So I kind of feel like these two teams are a little bit, similar. By the way, in the last 15 games against the Canucks, the Blues are 10-3-2. So I like that. That makes me feel good. Jakey Neighbors has back-to-back games with multi-points, and he's on a 5-game point streak with 3 goals and 4 assists. And Suits is about to dress for 1,514th NHL game. So really big for Ryan Suter. He's been a vital part of this Blues' defensive core. And I feel good. I'm not worried. I'm not freaking out. I just know the stakes of this game. And I want the boys to be prepared as best as possible. And again, everybody knows what the stakes are. It is playoff hockey here in St. Louis. Getting that second wild card spot would be absolutely massive for the Blues. And for them to get it, right, would be everything. I think the number one thing is when you have to think about this team is all the adversity that they've had to face. I mean, let's face it, we have seen the St. Louis Blues in a multitude of years be counted out as contenders and then go to win the Stanley Cup. Now, do I think this is a cup contending team? I do not think that. They need to make it into the playoffs first. That'd be nice. But you do see this pattern with them sometimes when they're really low and you think they're out and then they get hot. But they need to continue this consistency. They can't slack. They can't do any of that. At the end of the day, this is the Blues' opportunity to prove why they deserve to be there. So for me, I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm motivated. I'm pumped up. I just want to see playoff hockey again. But I actually have some good news for you. But first, my friends at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, develop, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talents across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. So if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who is able to deliver incredible results. And posting jobs is free and simple. And within a day, multiple qualified candidates you can choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale businesses efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Also, something else we have going down right now is the bracket breakdown challenge. Well, take a listen.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think Duke's going to win it all, but whatever. I'm usually not right about this stuff. I said Kansas a couple years ago won, and then that was it. Anyways, let's talk about some news with Colton Parayko. I know I teased this at the beginning of today's show, but Colton Parayko, as we know, he was rolled out for the 6 weeks, right? And it was because of the knee. It's now, but I believe it's been 2 weeks without Parayko, which it doesn't seem like it's been that long, but I guess it has been. But I did see something very interesting today, and this is from my coach. Do you know who that coach is? That is Coach Jim Montgomery. Okay. Colton Parayko's injury obviously is very serious, right? And it said about 6 weeks he would be reevaluated, right? And that was on March 6th when the initial report came out, okay? What happened was he fell awkwardly on his left leg in the overtime of the Blues' 3-2 shootout victory over the LA Kings. And Coach Montgomery provided some insights onto Parayko's injury. And he said he is progressing really well. He's an exemplary recovery athlete in a sense that he doesn't take any time off. He's going to do exactly what the doctors are asking of him. Do I think he's going to be 6 weeks? I do not think he's going to be 6 weeks. That's just me, because that's my belief in him and our athletic training staff and doctors. But outside of that, I don't know how much sooner than 6 weeks. So yeah, I understand that may not be everything, but that kind of gives me a little bit of an insight, because why would Coach Montgomery say that if he didn't maybe have a slight idea? I think Colton Parayko could be returning sooner than we think. I think if the boys do make it to the playoffs, we're going to see him in the playoffs, but that gave me some hope. And it was really nice seeing him come out to celebrate Schenner's 1,000th game tribute, I guess you would call it, not like his actual 1,000th game, but the ceremony that they did ahead of the Anaheim Ducks. So you saw him come out, obviously not on skates or anything, but I'm sure he's working hard. That's one thing about Colton Parayko, is that he is one of those athletes that you can really tell that he goes all in everything he does. So I feel good. I'm excited. I am ready. And honestly, at the end of the day, this is a very good Blues team. And I just think that I just feel good about it. So I will talk to you all on tomorrow's episode ahead of this big game against the Vancouver Canucks. Again, make sure to follow on socials at Locked On Blues or anywhere where you might listen to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud. Imagine SoundClouding this. That's wild. But yeah, anywhere where you listen to this podcast, make sure to give it a like, a follow. Any type of interaction will really help out this channel. And again, I am your host, Haley Taylor Simon. I only talk St. Louis Blues 5 days a week. And on the weekends, I tweet St. Louis Blues. All right, I will talk to you in tomorrow's episode. And like always, how I end every single episode, let's go Blues.